Yeah, thinking I was all prepared for this sergeant's session when President Tony said, and you're aware that the proceeds are going to Te Arrow Health Centre. And I went, oh. So I've revamped my presentation. It was originally on the monarchy and my new role in aviation security. I kept a couple of slides, but I'm focusing more today on health. When I read the guidelines for sergeant, and this is not the first time I've been sergeant, I realise I'm supposed to be supported by all of you, dobbing in your fellow Rotarians. It's a civic duty, and the only one I've got for today is Francis, not wearing a badge, but he's easy pickings, as is William. So I'm not going to fine William or Francis. I'd rather fine all of you for not doing your civic duty and providing dobs on your fellow Rotarians. So
Thank you very much.
If you're guilty, please contribute. Today, when I then looked at Te Arrow Health, and Daryl Carpenter, the chair, is sitting here, and it's added pressure on all of us to contribute. This is the 97th day of the year. It's a quarter of the way through the year, but internationally it's also known as something else. Anybody want to hazard a guess? So you should all find yourself, because it's World Health Day. And so it's completely appropriate that we're talking about donating to Te Arrow Health Centre, and the theme for today that I'm using is health and safety. I went and visited Te Arrow Health Centre, and my summary of it, and I know you'll be covering it later on, Daryl, is that it's a drop-in medical centre for those with community services cards. It keeps its charges low, and it does that through donations. Last year the club donated $14,000. We are looking to put a board member, I think, with Te Arrow Health, and for the club, for our Rotary Club, it's a major community services project, and we're also looking at providing people support, particularly technical people support, I understand, President Tony. So this is what we're contributing today for, so I'm going to get you to shake your pockets out shortly. So a quarter of the year has gone. I want everybody to stand up who thought about making a New Year resolution or who actually did make a New Year resolution. That's pretty poor. For all of those sitting down who never made one, you should find yourself for a lack of aspiration, a lack of drive and a lack of goals. Stay standing for the rest of you. So everybody who didn't make a New Year resolution, as I say, please do find yourself. For those of you standing up, sit down for those who have already broken it. And find yourself along the way too for a lack of drive and a lack of motivation. For those who are still standing who are feeling quite smug that you're on track with capturing a New Year resolution, find yourself and sit down if you're already subtly broken it by having either a hot cross bun or a Easter egg, which is coming up. And for the rest of you who are standing up and are very smug, you should find yourself too, because you're actually right on top of things and you've obviously got spare time and capacity. I thought about how do I challenge the health section of such a young and dynamic club.
I want to tell you what my resolution was. My resolution at New Year was to be able to keep up with Trisha Wallbridge on her bike. And last Saturday, she ploughed her way up Rah Rah Road, and so did I. I'm still suffering.
Now I thought about how do we get inside health for such a young, fit, dynamic-looking club. So the easiest way was to look in the mirror. Now, when you look in the mirror and you're comfortable with what you see, then you should be finding yourself for being also smug about where you're at in life. For those who have a wee way to go like me, then you need some drive and inspiration, and you should find yourself as well for actually having something to aspire to. So if you look in the mirror and it's not where you want to be, find yourself. World Health Day, today is World Health Day, and it's a really important theme. If you didn't know, last year was healthy heartbeat, healthy blood pressure, so if you didn't know it was that, then you should also find yourself. For those who didn't know that this year's theme, you can see it up there, small bite, big threat. Really important theme as we listen to the news today. Solomon Islands is about to have a huge epidemic in this complete space as a result of the floods that they've just had. So the theme this year from the United Nations is small bite, big threat, vector-borne diseases, mosquitoes, sandflies, ticks, snails, and parasites that transmit things.
Mark, how slow do you have to be bitten by a snail?
Whilst you might think that's slightly true, has anybody here been bitten or had snails carry and transmit through water and can infect a whole range of things? Actually quite dangerous parts in parts of the world. It's a really big worry, so it's not how fast you move, it's what you drink and where you sleep and all sorts of things like that. Now, more than half of the world's population is at risk from malaria, dengue, and a whole range of other diseases there.
Pronounce the next one.
I can cover Lyme disease. Surprisingly, I've actually know most of these from some of the parts of the world that I've lived in, and they are, and I'm going to ask as well, but you can see there the second part, more than 1 billion people are affected and more than 1 million die, so you can sort of see why it's such a major theme for the United Nations. But the goal in the end is the same as the Aero Health Centre, to put in place affordable public health measures to improve surveillance and protection of the community. Now, has anybody had malaria or dengue? This is going to be a major problem for the Solomons. Is anybody here? So you're immune, but the rest of you, because you're such lucky buggers, you should find yourself being in a very protected lifestyle for where you live. But you can see the horrible stats there, that 1.2 million people were killed in 2010 from malaria or dengue. My next one from my original part is, today is day 30. Air travel, Prince William didn't get in. I think he must have, the backup plan was to land at a Hakia and helicopter down here. I presume that's how he got in today. But with day 30 of the search for MH370, today's the day in theory the battery power cuts off and we might lose the ability to track this thing. There's an awful lot of concern about how safe air travel is. And I've only really got two questions for you just to reinforce this part. Anybody wish to hazard a guess how many million people fly domestically in New Zealand and roughly over how many flights?
10 million passengers.
It's a very good guess. How many aircraft flights?
About 50,000.
So your table, Francis, is immune, but everybody else can pay up. But it's not even close to the number of flights. 10.1 million people flew domestically on 300,000 flights within New Zealand. So you can see statistically, against what happens globally, it's a very safe way to travel. Internationally, in and out of New Zealand, and for every 100,000 that you're out, find yourself $1. So how many international flights come in and out of New Zealand each year, carrying roughly how many people? 60,000 international flights, 61,000 carrying 2.8 million people. So if you were close to that, don't find yourself, but if you weren't even close to on a 100,000 scale, please contribute to the jar. My last slide, now if you're lucky enough to be travelling, and a whole lot of the world can't, and think about actually how safe those stats are and where we live. If you haven't had malaria or dengue, and if you're wealthy enough to fly, you've actually got a lovely, comfortable lifestyle. Think about some of the people around the world who can't. Think that world health starts with the family and the community. Let's help put the ambulance at the top of the hill, and our club does a good role at that. And let's make up for those missing Rotary meetings where you have not contributed into the jar. So I ask you to grab your wallets or your purses and tip out all the loose change into the jar so we can tell Te Horo Health Centre and Daryl. Thank you.